Hey, what's up, guys? Tim here. This is Random Awesome. Today, I have chosen a rant about a topic that everyone seems to be talking about right now, and that is Bernie Sanders' endorsement of Hillary Clinton. Now, there seems to be a lot of different views on this, and also I think the reality of it is getting lost somewhere. So anyway, I've seen a lot of people calling Bernie a sellout. Bernie has always been all anti-establishment and all of that. Hillary was his number one opponent, and so now the fact that he came out and endorsed her, people are calling him a sellout because she is so very much establishment, which is pretty much everything that he has always fought against. And again, there's just a simple fact that they were opponents, and now he's giving her his support. So I understand that. I get that some of his supporters are going to feel sort of betrayed by him for that. But the issue isn't as black and white as it may seem. The fact of the matter is, Bernie was basically given no choice in the matter. Well, for one thing, before I move on to that, I want to make it very clear that even though he endorsed Hillary, he did not concede to her. He's still in the race. He's still fighting. Now, his chances may be kind of slim. I don't know. They're not impossible, though. So, anyway, and we're going to get to that. But anyway, he was basically given no choice because Hillary clearly has all of the influence and the power in this election. There's been lots of talk of voter fraud and all sorts of stuff. It's quite clear that Hillary has a lot of some support from the powers that be, I guess, and that despite the fact that Bernie has the support of the people, that Hillary has managed to basically defeat him. Even though the race isn't over yet, everybody seems to think that Bernie's been defeated. But that she's used, shady methods, I guess, to retain her lead in the election over Bernie. So basically, the DNC, basically the people in charge of the Democratic Party, trying to make all this political stuff as simple and easy to understand as I can. Anyway, yeah, the Democrats that have control over the Democratic Party, basically, they have the power to prevent Bernie from taking part in the convention later this month. Now, the convention pretty much is the end of the race. That's like the finish line, But it is possible for Bernie to make a comeback at the convention, even though he's behind and everybody seems to think that Hillary has already won. The fact that the people overwhelmingly support Bernie over Hillary could come into play at the convention. So basically what's happening is the Democratic Party, since they have the power to prevent Bernie Sanders from speaking or really taking part in the convention at all, which is very important that he does that, because that is his only hope of winning. He can win this at the last minute. FDR did it. He also endorsed his opponent because that was the only way he was going to get to take part in the convention, and he ended up winning and went on to win the general election as well. So it has happened. It can happen with Bernie. I'm not going to claim that it's likely to happen because it probably isn't. It's probably a long shot. But Bernie is not a quitter, and he hasn't quit yet. Basically, he endorsed Hillary under threat from the DNC. They basically told him, okay, either you publicly endorse Hillary, or we will prevent you from taking part in the convention. Basically leaving Bernie with no chance of victory whatsoever. So at least now, since he has officially endorsed Hillary, he will be able to take part in the convention. He will be able to speak, and he will still be in the race and still have at least some chance of winning. So, yes. But that's not the only thing. I mean, a lot of people have debated with me on that, saying, oh, well, I don't really think that that's the only reason he endorsed her and blah, blah, blah. That's true. That's not the only reason he endorsed her. There's also the fact that he knows that even if he loses to Hillary, we have to get a Democrat in the White House in November, because that's the only way that Bernie's political revolution will keep going. He does not agree with all of Hillary's politics, and his endorsement of her should not suggest that he does. He's not saying that he suddenly changed his mind on all of his opinions and views and now agrees with Hillary. That's not what's happening. He does not agree with her any more than he did before, but he recognizes the fact that if Donald Trump wins in November, the revolution that Bernie started is pretty much done at that point. It is imperative that we get a Democrat in office, even if it is Hillary. I mean, I don't like Hillary at all. I don't like Trump either, but Trump is the greater evil. And I know people don't like the idea of voting for the lesser of two evils, but in this particular election, the stakes are so high that we can't risk it. We can't risk a Trump victory, because a Trump presidency would be disastrous. And I think most people agree with me on that. Yeah, Hillary is corrupt. She's a fucking bitch. I don't deny that at all. But, you know, Bernie is the only worthy candidate. And as well as maybe one or two other third-party candidates, but they don't have any realistic chance of winning. So voting for a third-party candidate in November is a waste of a vote. Now, normally I wouldn't say that. In any normal election, I would say, yeah, vote for the person that you support. You know, stick to your beliefs and stuff like that. You know, vote for the candidate that you truly want, even if that candidate has no chance of winning. But this is not a typical election. Like I said, the stakes are too high. If Trump wins again, it would be disastrous. And a lot of people argue with that because they underestimate the power that he has to actually do anything. You know, I mean, people have pretty much realized that this whole building a wall thing and making Mexico pay for it is never going to happen. I mean, that's just one of those crazy, ridiculous things that Donald Trump says to get people riled up, and, you know, he's manipulating people by using their ignorance and their fear to gain support. And, you know, I mean, there's a lot of conflict in the world, and especially in our country right now. And people want, and they need an enemy. They need somebody to point the finger at other than themselves. So that is what Trump is giving them. He's giving them the Muslims. He's saying, okay, these are the people to blame for terrorism. You know, all these shootings and bombings, anything like that happens, it's the Muslims. They're the ones to blame. He's blaming all sorts of problems on illegal immigrants, whether it's they're taking our jobs or they're rapists, they're murderers, and whatever, drugs. I don't know. I mean, just anything he can't blame the Muslims for, he's basically blaming illegal immigrants for. Now, I will agree that immigration is in need of some sort of reform in this country. Now, I don't agree that they're taking our jobs and that they're rapists and they're murderers or anything. I do not agree with any of that. There's no truth to that whatsoever. But clearly, there are a lot of Americans who do see a problem with illegal immigration in this country. So I do think that some sort of reform needs to happen. But mass deportations, building a wall, things like that, that's not the solution. That's not even close to the solution, right? As for terrorism and all this Islamophobia bullshit, making Muslims register, I mean, that's just fucking segregation. That's it's like Nazi Germany, basically. That's how the whole thing got started. Hitler says, okay, we're going to round up all the Jews, and, we're going to come up with a system to identify them so we know where they all are, And then it just progresses from there. Progresses to making them all live in one particular part of town. Kicking them all out of their houses and putting them in one nasty part of town and just making them stay there. Then from there it progresses to putting them all on trains and sending them off to these concentration camps, which everybody is told are just, places for them to be temporarily until they figure out the problem. But as we know now, that's not what happened. They were starved and there was mass murder. Basically, they were killed. They were just horribly abused. Yeah. I'm not saying that's going to happen here if Trump is elected. I don't think that it will. I don't think that we will have concentration camps. But that's not that wasn't the only terrible thing that, that Hitler did during his Third Reich. There was plenty of other stuff, and it's the other stuff that I worry about the most. It's the influence that he has over the people. It's the hatred, it's the bigotry, it's the just all of it. Hillary is a corrupt political and corporate whore. I mean, I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But at least she is promoting, the healthcare. She wants to reform the system we have to give even more people healthcare, free healthcare. She wants us to be able to go to college for free, just like Bernie. She, it's just all sorts of things. I mean, she doesn't agree with all of Bernie's politics, but there's a big chunk of it that she does agree with and that she will fight for just as passionately as Bernie did. Now, it's pretty clear that Hillary changes her opinions a lot, but it basically, she just goes with whatever is going to further her career in the most efficient and effective way. So, yeah, her views change all the time, but right now, she's on the progressive side, and that's a good thing, and she will remain on the progressive side, even if she's elected, throughout her time in office. So that's, at least there's that. At least we know that we will have a, progressive president that wants to move us forward and not backward like Trump does. So, no, I don't trust Hillary. I don't like all of her politics. I definitely don't like her as a person. But she is still a far greater option than Trump. Trump poses a threat that is terrifying. A lot of people underestimate it, again, but I think it is extremely foolish to underestimate the power of hatred and racism and bigotry. I mean, as a gay man, I am faced with all of that every day. You know, I've lived my whole life facing that. I know how ugly it is, and I know how easily it can spread. I mean, it's like a disease. It's like an infectious, nasty thing. You know, I mean, I've seen truly, good people, sort of liberal, progressive people, be turned into hateful, bigoted idiots just because they started hanging out with other hateful, bigoted idiots, and it rubbed off on them. So, I've seen it with my own eyes. I know what kind of power it has. So you put somebody like Trump in the White House, somebody who has already set us back decades as far as, the racism and the hatred and the discrimination goes. Put him in the White House, and that's just going to, multiply that for at least 4 years, possibly longer. And we can't risk that. This is a very volatile time in America, and we need progress. We cannot go backwards at this point. So, and that's definitely what Trump would do. So, anyway, Bernie understands that even if he can't win the nomination after the convention, Hillary will have to be elected, because we have to have a Democrat in office. We have to have a progressive in office. We can't afford to have Trump. We just can't. So, yes, it's partially, Bernie's endorsement was partially strategic, because it was the only way that he could stay in the race and actually still have somewhat of a chance of winning at the convention. But it's also because he knows we can't risk a Trump presidency. Period. We just can't. So I urge you, when it comes to voting time in November, even if you're, a Bernie or bust type person, I mean, I love Bernie Sanders, don't get me wrong, and I do not like Hillary or Trump, but Trump is the greater evil. I'm sorry, and the stakes are too high in this election. So normally I would say vote third party. The two-party system is fucked. The establishment is fucked. I don't support the two-party system. I don't support either one of the two major parties. Honestly, I would love to vote third party in this election. But again, this is not a typical election. The stakes are too high. We cannot afford a Trump presidency. The only vote come November that will prevent a Trump presidency is a vote for the Democratic nominee, which might be Hillary. I mean, I hope it isn't, of course. But if it is, then I urge you to vote for her, because, again, that's the only way we can oppose Trump. Yeah, voting third party is a wasted vote, because a third party candidate is not going to win. And again, I'm going to drill this into your heads. We cannot afford a Trump presidency at all, people. Just wake up. This is a very real threat. He is not just some fucking buffoon dancing around on stage. I mean, he is, but that's not just what he is. It's not only what he is. He does pose a very real threat. So, yeah, if you choose to just not vote at all, that's not good. That's foolishness, idiocy. That makes you no better than a fucking Trump supporter, because that is exactly what you're doing. You're supporting Trump if you don't vote. If you vote third party, again, you're supporting Trump by doing that, because your third party candidate is not going to win. I mean, there's zero chance of that. None. So, yeah, the only vote that is going to oppose Trump is a vote for the Democratic nominee. And I'm sorry if that ends up being Hillary. I know not very many people want that, but, that's the reality of it. This is a lesser of two evils situation, and you need to vote for the lesser of those two evils. I know it sucks, and I know we're sick of being put in the position where we have to vote between the lesser of two evils. But again, stakes are too high. We can't let the greater evil, in this case, win. because it's too great an evil. We can't afford it. You know, like I said, if this was a typical election, if Trump was just some typical conservative Republican politician, then I'd say, yeah, go ahead and vote third party or whatever. But that's not the case. Trump is the most extreme example of a conservative, right-wing Republican, and he will set us back quite a bit, and we cannot afford that right now. We can't. So, yes, I very much support what Bernie Sanders is doing right now. I see the strategy involved, and I understand his point of view, his perspective on it. You know, we can't risk a Trump presidency, period. So, yeah, I very much support him in that. And I will vote for Hillary in November if I have to. But, you know, whatever. So, yeah, keep on fighting, Bernie supporters, because it ain't over yet. But even if Bernie doesn't win the nomination at the convention, then stick with the Democrats, please, because we don't need another Hitler. we really don't. And that's just the simple truth. So, yeah, that's my rant for today. Hope you, I don't know if you enjoyed it, I guess. I don't know. It's not really a topic that's, you know, entertaining or anything. So, but I hope you learned something. Maybe. A little bit. Yeah. Anyway, I am Tim. This is Random Awesome. And yeah, I'll see you guys again soon. Peace out, bitches.